G'day there, my name's Kane Hooper. I'm a MBA student at Deakin University this year in 2013. I've had a number of students approach me and ask for tips on how to study and get high results, preferably the high distinction area. So I thought I'd put this video together to give you an idea of how I go about doing it and how to get very, very good results. So just to give you an idea, I'm a professional business recovery specialist. I go into failing businesses and take over as their general manager, usually for about 6 to 18 months. And using pretty much every management discipline, I take the business to profitability and growth, and then hand it back over to management or bring in new management. I've been doing that for quite a number of years in the small to medium enterprise sector. My goal is to move into the large corporate sector and eventually CEO of a global multi-billion-dollar corporation. So that's why I'm currently doing the MBA. I'm halfway through the MBA, having completed 6 units. Results-wise, I've done very well. And just so you know, I'm not talking out of my hat, and I might know something about study, I'll just show you my results for the first 6 units. You'll see here that most of my results are in the 90s. This is the one blight on my record, which is BPM at 84. But I've got high distinctions in every unit. I've received high distinctions for every assignment and exam. For assignments, I've generally been averaging around about the 90% mark. For the exams, I've been averaging around about the 96% mark. I've received 2 exam results of 100% each. Pretty happy with my results. And my goal is to win the Brooks Scholars Medal. That's awarded to the top MBA graduate each year. But that's in line with my goal of becoming CEO of a large corporation. So I'm pretty determined. I work my butt off and to get these results. So I'm just going to go over a few tips on how I go about getting it. Now, this may or may not be useful to you. It really depends on your goal. If you want to do really well and succeed, then this will be of value to you. Some people just want to pass, especially if you've got a lot of other time commitments and so on, and that's fine. In that case, sure, this might be helpful, but this is really for those who are determined to hit the top. Okay, so first I want to look at how I go about planning my study. So I'm currently studying 3 units per trimester, plus I work part-time, 3 days a week, and I've got a young family of 3 young daughters, one of them who's quite ill. So my time commitment's quite tight. So every week I do my planning. Let me just bring that up. So this is the weekly planning guide, which is provided by Deakin, and I segment basically every waking hour. And I try to follow this as religiously as possible. You'll see, and I hope it's not too small, but you'll see here the pink is the days that I work. The green is the days that I'm studying uni. Here we've got orange, which is my day I spend with the family. And in the evenings after dinner, a bit of family time and cleaning, I then work on my assignments. Now for each subject, you've really got to look at least 10 hours per subject each week. As I get to exam time, that tends to basically increase a little bit and use up every spare minute working on exams. But 10 hours, if you want to hit HDs, I can't see you doing any less. Especially if you're an international student where English is a little bit of a barrier, you'd be thinking minimally 10 hours. So if you're doing 4 units full time, you've got to look at 40 hours a week. It's basically the same as doing a full-time job. For those who work and doing units, it can be quite difficult, but by planning out like this, I've got my wife's agreement on this particular schedule, and it works quite well. The other important thing in planning is to start looking at your assignments from week 1. Now, you might not understand what this assignment's asking you. The questions might be outside of your understanding because you haven't studied that particular topic yet. However, it's good to find out what units are assessed in that assignment, so what weeks are covered. So it might be, say, weeks 1 to 5, and it's during week 7. You need to read it and get familiar with what the assignment is asking you to do, because as you work through the weeks, you can align what you're learning against the assignment. So I tend to read the assignment once or twice a week at the initial stage, make a few notes here and there, and then as I get into the 3rd, 4th weeks, I'm starting to plan out the assignment, and then starting to work on my research and so on. But I'll get into the assignment work in a later video. So planning is crucial. If you don't do your planning and you just go ad hoc, the guys I've seen generally end up around credit. If you plan well right from the start and you do your study 10 hours, you can get very high results. So the last point in planning about how I actually go about each individual unit, we'll say take here of Tuesday, which is accounting. So the first 3 hours of the morning are the lecture itself. I have lunch, and then between 1 and 2, I review that particular lecture. So I go through the notes, I make sure I understand everything, and I do any of the practice questions related to that topic. Once that's all good, I then spend the next 3 hours studying the chapter that's related to next week's topic. Now, the reason I do this is that when I go into next week's class, I'm already relatively familiar with the topic. I might still have a few questions, but when I'm in class, I can clearly align exactly what the lecturer is talking about against what I've already studied, and my assimilation of the data raises quite a notch. And then when I get into reviewing the lecture, it's usually a short process where I'm just wrapping up the bits that I don't fully understand. So by doing it that way, that works very, very well for me, and it means by the time I get to the end of the 11 weeks, there's not a huge amount of revision that I have to do. I usually understand it quite well. So that's how I go about planning. In the next video, I'm going to look more about how I study itself. Then another video, I'm going to look at how I approach assignments. And then in the last video, how I approach the exam.